to the max for the ultimate thrill.
Fans look at monster truck drivers and trucks as superheroes, as something bigger than life.
With mega attitude that drives these behemoths to incredible highs and lows.
I think the thing that people get excited about is just seeing something get tore up.
And still, these giants are full of shocking surprises.
Monster trucks, by their design, are intended to fly.
Pop the hood, get behind the wheel, and discover the birth of a mechanical marvel on Monster Truck Tech.
We continue our coverage from the Kameel 200, round number 4, the Africa Off-Road Championship Race Series for 2018. Now, we've already seen all the kids, we've seen the bikes and the quads. Now it's going to get crazy because this room and the pits don't even tell the story of how busy this really was. Over 40 production vehicle and special vehicles making the lineup and the trip. It seems like everyone waited for the Northwest to dry out before they got their entries in. A couple of the old faces were still going to be in the mix, and it was still going to be a tough race to see who was going to walk away with each of the categories. But to see over 50 cars in the lineup queue just said this was going to be a happy day for Smiles and Flip Feldman. I'm not surprised to see him grinning from ear to ear as he handed out all the trophies from the previous event. And after that, we went and got ourselves ready down to the start line. A quick rider's briefing and driver's briefing as always before we got locked and loaded and into the start queue. The giant killer, Wolf-Peter von Fey, was in the mix, and that was going to make everyone extremely nervous. Remember, he is near on unstoppable at the moment in the Class Bs, and the single-seaters seem to be having a bit of a renaissance, coming back and really dominating in off-road racing. It's a great time to be a part of off-road racing in South Africa. So once again, Wolf-Peter von Fey opening up our racing procedure and what will be our biggest start line situation for the last couple of seasons. Well done to everyone for making this our biggest start shoot ever. Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann in the F2 vehicle would go out and get the job done. Rickers Prinsloo and Dylan de Kock, as always, chasing those points on the plate to see who can be Class P champions. They'll be in a straight-out dogfight the whole way through the day, with Julio Ferreira and Francois Bennett as Carleen Croshaw and Marina van Skalkvik go out to see if they can take the win in the C category. They would have Fahim Jacobs to go out and chase down on. The Walkers would be big threats in the B1. Missing in action at the previous race, they will get a big wake-up because the B category has become wild. Johan Besson in the B11, the second of the single-seaters. And it does seem like the African off-road format of the tracks that we lay out really suit the single-seaters down to the ground. Monis and Jaco Dupria in the D7. The Ds would be a little bit thin on the ground this time around, but there was still enough to chase it down. Looked like around about 7 cars all in all. So that's cool. Normally in the D and E category, we only have 1 or 2. And across the board, in each of the categories, of course, the biggest number would be coming in from the Bs. You see Tion Prinsloo and Dion de Kock going out in the B31. But each of the categories would have a challenging push to try and not only make their way onto the podium, but at this race in particular, to make a top 5 would be a big ask. All the big names and more were in it to win it at the Kameel 200. The B12 of Jaco and Hendrik Esterhuizen just eased their way back into racing at the previous round. And I think they've got a real solid setup on their vehicle coming into this event. CFV van Skalkbeek and Arthur Croshaw in the B100. They were able to get themselves up there at the previous event. This is a slightly tighter layout of a track, and it might be one that suits the side-by-sides. Johan Pinar and Matty Pretorius in the G19 would be the first of those. You can see a very, very tight opening section, the same section that was used for the motorbikes, meaning you pretty much couldn't see round the corners until you got there. Jaco Rousseau in the low-seated, long-nosed B-category single-seater. Then Louis Weishalt and Heineck Erasmus. And I just love the sound of this turbo-dieseled N1 4x4 cruiser. And if anyone knows how to get the most out of it, it is our friends from N1 4x4, your cruiser and Toyota four-wheel drive experts. Julio Ferreira and Francois Bennett this time. So they're swapping out seats a lot. That is the same Francois Bennett as we see on the quads, by the way. And they will be a threat in the P category. Another B, Johan Lloyd and Arnold Theron getting chased down by Freddie O'Brien and Johan Retief. I promise you, this is just all good news. The biggest entry we have seen across all categories. The G97 of Naldo Pieterse and Johan Foster. Again, the side-by-sides would be perfect for a track like this. And it's been a while since we've seen them take an overall win. Round 4 might be the one. Andre Vermeulen and Rian van Rensburg in the F category. And the F category, another one of those classes that saw a massive influx at round number 4. So often, only 2 cars going at it. This time, 5 cars. The third of the side-by-sides, G21 of Vickers Haasbroek and Marco Solmonson. It's going to be hard to call who's going to be able to walk away with that one. Certainly on the terrain where it's very hard to make the passes. Sparks Morrison, one of the old Sandmasters. Classic cars to see going out there. Battling to find his gearbox in the early running though. Johan Boxhorn on the B99. Bu Levy's number. No doubt at some point we will see Bu Levy in a car. He seems to be able to be fast in everything else. No stretch of the imagination to see him winning one of these events at some point in the cars as well. Jeremy and Christopher Mitchell in the B27. We haven't spoken about these guys too much, putting some early season development into the car, and hopefully they can come straight out the gates and climb the ladder into a podium. Fahim Jacobs and Adam Tate, the second of the off-road Baja Bugs, racing in the C category. Hein Kruder and Paul Moret. These guys will know this area like the back of their hands. Coming out of the Barberspan area, they know exactly what to do. It's just a short hop and a skip and a jump to come across to Kameel. They've probably done some shakedowns in this area before. Hendrik Reinecker, junior and senior, racing in the E category. They'd be going up against Chart Stain and Melinda to see what they could do. The E category, once again, often just 1 or 2 cars out there. This time, 4 or 5, making it a real dice. Nothing. No category was decided because of the huge numbers coming into this race. Clarence and Annalise Verskirka, we'll call them the Berserkers going forward in the G111. Hein Moorman and Dani Lagrange. We know that D13 vehicle is going to be super strong. And if it's a track like this that is more technical, we do find that the D, E, and F vehicles can run strong pace. It's not all about big horsepower, but more about handling on tight technical terrain like this, especially the first half of this track. There was very much brushland, what you're seeing now. Master Jacobs and the Zia Tate, one of the cars that sits nice and high. They'll be able to spot the corners and the apexes a little bit earlier than the rest. Chart and Melinda Stain, huge threats to take a win in the E category. Frank and Robert Moore, the never-ending start list of the open wheel B category. The B30 this time. They've been in a shout of top 5s throughout the season so far. We'll see what they can do to try and climb the ladder, as I like to say. Wayne Smith and Willie Dupree, D26. They have got plenty of competition today. One of the nice specced and higher sprung vehicles coming out of the D category though. They should make light work of these braking bumps that have really got chowed up in the sandy terrain that permeates the first quarter of this track. Piet van Jasveld and Rupert van der Rist in the F category. The E's and F's, the closest to stock standard. Cliff Weisfeld, Skulk, Barry, Sydney and Winston. The second entry coming in from our N1 4x4 Cruiser and Toyota four-wheel drive experts. And they will, like I say, know how to get the very best out of their Cruisers and Toyotas. Marcus Labuskakny and Eddie Lowe. The G20, the Can-Am Mavericks. These have really become the cars to watch out for. Ernest Roberts goes out there in the G7. And that's why you have a navigator. As Cyril van der Merwe used to say, he's there for ballast. I know where I'm going. Ernest Roberts getting a nice roll over from the people on the sideline. And they will have something to talk about at the Bri later on. So the G7, the Can-Am Maverick, the only single-seater Maverick that is running in this race. Don't read too much into that. I don't think it's that anyone doesn't want to get in the seat with him, although after seeing this footage, there may be an argument for that one. Kobus van Aert goes out there, Akil Jacobs, as we get close to the end of our incredible 50-plus cars in the start queue. Well done, Africa Off-Road, and well done to their supporters and sponsors from N1 4x4, Cruiser and Toyota, your four-wheel drive experts, as well as our tyre sponsor coming on board for 2018, Pirelli. The D's, E's and F category really bolstering the field at this event. And those Bucky categories overall really helping out bring the numbers up. Ahmed and Mohammed Hussein in the D10. The older format Nissan hardbodies, the original Nissan hardbody. The car made famous by Hannes Krobler. Pleasure of hanging out with Hannes just a month or two back at the Night of the Legends up in the Northwest area. We've got to share some incredible stories of off-road racing back in the day. Join us after the break as we bring you more incredible action on the second half of the Kameel 200.
It came, saw, and conquered, the Porsche 911. Like no other, the 11 Series characterized the sports car segment. We look back, but it is not only the sports car legend from the graduation class of 1963. At the same time, on the other side of the Atlantic, the Corvette Stingray celebrates its premiere and becomes the American sports car dream par excellence. The legend lives on, up to today. And the Studebaker Avanti, also born 1963, it is not only a design icon and innovator, but perhaps the first muscle car in the world.
I've always been a storyteller, so becoming a director was a natural route for me. It's given me the opportunity to tell real South African stories. Making it happen was tough, with many obstacles along the way. One of the biggest challenges was believing in myself, and overcoming that was an important part of my journey. What makes my journey extraordinary is going home to the ones who believed in me from the start.
In a bid to impress one prospective buyer, 3 homeowners go head-to-head to improve and sell their houses under the guidance of Amanda Lamb.
I think somebody was murdered here.
The bed rest, gosh, it's just like, yuck.
First, they get a chance to snoop around each other's homes.
The colour of the walls reminded them of something that you would find in a baby's nappy.
Oh no, really?
And then, armed with a budget of only £1,000, they're challenged to improve and perfect their properties in just 1 week.
Wow. I wouldn't have to do anything to this, I don't think, because that's ideal. I think they've done a really nice job.
Tune in to Selling Houses with Amanda Lamb. It's only on the Home Channel.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
The unburied dead are coming back to life.
My name is Mark Warman. I work with my worst enemy, Darren Kirkpatrick.
Give me a gun!
And my son-in-law, Josh.
Whoa!
Along with my best friend, Royal.
Well, all right.
And our newest team member, Holly.
This is exciting.
We bring dead cars back to life. If we don't kill each other.
Oh, Mark! Oh. It's gonna be a bloodbath.
Welcome back to the final bit of race coverage from round number 4 of the Africa Off-Road Championship Race Series for 2018, the Kameel 200. 4 rounds done, 8 rounds, incredibly, still remaining on the tour. And finally, the Northwest Province has started to dry up. Riggers Prinsloo and Dylan de Kock on the P30, getting a little bit of advice from our marshals out there, and high five to all of our marshals, our medics, and all of our organizers out there making sure that our racers are safe and having a jaw out there. Riggers Prinsloo, desperate to get the numbers going again. They're having a good championship push this year, but they are definitely, as I say, being pushed in 2018 to try and get the best out of their car every single time. The man that opened up the track, Wolf Peter von Fey, starting to slide backwards ever so slightly, but always going to be a massive threat. Bit of a diesel engine. He just does not seem to slow down. If anything, he gets faster with age. Julio Ferreira and Francois Bennett this time in the P1 machine. The same Francois Bennett that we saw on the handlebars earlier on the quad. Julio Ferreira has become an aggressive driver as he gets more comfortable with his machine. Still leading in the G category, the side-by-sides. Naldo Pieterse and Johan Foster. And look at the benefit that you get from these side-by-sides. Their 0 to 60 is untouchable. They are just rocket ships as they lay down the power. Johan Lloyd and Arnold Theron, a fortuitous stall there. Seemed to come at the right time, but the car is definitely not firing perfectly. Tion Prinsloo and Dion de Kock on the B31 stand a chance to move up in the order. And you can see that the cars have already been through that one little mud splash. Hasn't really caused too many problems. The rest of the track is just ideal. Amazingly enough, because of the gravel content in this area, there is not too much dust. Look at Brendan Martin. He's got some damage on his left-hand side of the vehicle. So he is either picked up a bit of a tree stump or he's got possibly a little bit of bodywork hanging off the car. You can see it dragging in to the terrain. Looks like he's managed to dispatch it. But yeah, doing a little bit of trimming for the rest of the cars was that man. Sifu van Skalkvik and Arthur Croshaw in the B100, the first of the Baja Bugs. The Walkers, Johnny Walker, Jr. and Senior on the wheel, and Almeen Walker on the notes in the B1. Jaco and Hendrik Oosthuizen, like we said, we saw them at the previous event. They had a real solid setup in the car. They took a lot of data back to develop their car even further into this event. The Visa Kirks of Clarence and Annalise getting closed down as Marcus Labuskakny and Eddie Lowe in the G20 are desperate to get the moves on. That is going to be a pass that we will keep an eye on to see what they can do. Weichelt and the crew in the first of the N1 4x4 cruisers coming and charging on through here. It's actually the second vehicle that got fielded in, and once again the turbo diesel setup that they have on their car starting to bear fruit. Johnny Walker getting closed down here as the F categories of Vermeulen and Van Rensburg start to close things down. Boxhorn on the B99 comes in for his splash and dash as most cars now head out onto their final lap, the last push, try and get that cheese at the Kameel 200. Ferreira and Bennett, thank you so much for smoking us all out here. As they come in, they will definitely need a splash and dash before going and attacking their final lap. We saw Vermeulen and Van Rensburg just a few moments ago, and they make their way into the pits as they try and challenge for an F category win. They're on point for one at the moment, so I've got to tell you that right now. In the Ds, Darby and Theo Scholz doing a nice job. They're currently chasing down on Hein Mullman as well as Monis Dupria to see if they can get the win in the Ds. The Land Rover heads on out, as does PM De Villiers and Noppie Jacobs. De Jager, a no-show at this event, unfortunately. Still developing his car as we move forward into the thick end of the championship. Willy Feldman charging, and look at all these passes that are coming. The siren that you're hearing is the screamer. That tells the drivers out front that there is a faster car coming through. And please, oh please, find a nice gap so they can make the pass. And that was one of the real key features of the Kameel 200. We hadn't seen this many overtakes in this season at least. Marcus Labuskakny and Eddie Lowe, one of the most aggressive crews out there in the G20, trying to plow their way up the order and get into a top 5 overall. The last lap really gave us a lot to talk about. Hein Kruger and Paul Marais in the D19. The D category, it was going to be a hard ask to see if they could climb inside of a top 5, as we start to see the side-by-sides really making the passes as they had made so much ground up in the early laps. Junior and Senior, Bertus Creel in the E99. The E category, once again, looks like the Creels were on point for a top 10 overall and an E-class win, staying ahead of Darby and Theo. Vermeulen and Van Rensburg getting a lot of airtime today, courtesy of the TV show that brings you all the action in the Africa Off-Road Championship Race Series. Haasbroek and Van Rensburg in the E44. currently leading the E category as well on their final lap of the race. The N1 4x4 crew, they had brought a lot of support, a lot of spanners, and 2 incredible race cars to this event as we drew a close under round number 4. Wolf-Peter Funfai coming in the B17, and he would be trying to see if he could get the job done once again. He has been a giant killer in the B class, as has this pairing of Feldman and Niemann in the F2. First guys to cross the stripe for the specials would be Naldo Pieterse and Johan Foster, but they would have to take second seat as the rest of the guys were flying on through. 6 cars in the side-by-sides, and one by one we welcomed everyone back into the pits. Nishal Bonner on the B20, he'd had a good drive as well, got himself into a good solid number 4 spot come the end. The G20, these were the fastest players, and we could see that as well out there on the track. Labuskakny and Lowe were looking to walk away with their win in the G20 for the side-by-sides. Johan Boxhorn on the B99 got himself into a solid position in the Class Bs. Hein Kruger and Paul Murray in the D19 did a nice solid job. They were going to walk away with the Class D victory, beating out 9 of the best other drivers out there. So a nice day behind the wheel and the notes for the pairing of Kruger and Murray. The E category is starting to come in as well. This was going to be a wild one to watch out for. It would be Bertus Creel walking away with the win in that gate. The D28 coming through there of Mr. Jacobs and Nazir Tate just missing out on the podium. The F1 of Andre Vermeulen and Rian van Rensburg would do a good enough job to get themselves into 3rd place in the Class Fs. De Villiers and Lockie Jacobs bucking and bouncing their way through in the F30. Amazingly enough, 2nd place for this pairing in category. Lawrence Haasbroek and Jans van Rensburg in the E44. 2nd place for them on the day out of a category record of 5 cars lining up. Brendan Martin in the B121 did a nice enough job to get inside of a top 10. It would be 8th place for that car. Here's a breakdown of the categories then, how they looked coming out of the Kameel 200. Special Class Bs, Johan Boxhorn, Wolf-Peter Funfai taking the number 2 spot this time, and Nishal Bonner in 3rd place. Class C going to Carleen Croshaw and Morena van Skalkwyk, beating out Fahim Jacobs and Adam Tate. Class P going to Julio Ferreira and Bennett. Class D going to Hein Kruger and Paul Murray, beating out Monis and Jaco Dupria, as well as Darby and Theo Scholz into 3rd place. Class E, who's an epic battle. Bertus Creel, Junior and Senior, winning out ahead of Haasbroek and Janse van Rensburg. 3rd, 4th and 5th, unfortunately DNFing in the category. Class F, Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemand did a great job to beat out De Villiers and Jacobs, as well as Andre Vermeulen and Rian van Rensburg. 3rd place, everyone after that, DNFs. Class G, and that's the side-by-sides, Marcus Labuskakny and Eddie Lowe, an aggressive drive to win out ahead of Pieterse and Foster, as well as the Viskerkas. We went down in the pits to catch up with some of the amazing stories from the day, especially this one.
Hi, ek is Ernest Roberts. It's my first race on the side-by-side here at Kameel. I really enjoyed it. It was just high speed. I had 2 rolls. I rolled the car twice. The last one I did a proper job. It was, you know what, the rut was just too deep, and sometimes when you slide, the back will tend to catch the wall of the sand, and then at the high side. But it was really fun, very nice, and I'll definitely be back for some more, but 10 out of 10 for the organizers. Thank you.
I'm Jaco Rousseau from Sunny's-Off. I just want to thank the sponsors for a very nice race, Pirelli and N1 4x4. Yeah, it went well. I had a few mishaps here and there, and well, the rest of the race was very nice, and it was quite fast in places, but yeah, it was a very nice race. Thanks.
If you like that, join us at the next round. It's going to be the Sunny's-Hof round number 5 on the 12th of May. For now, we just say a big thank you to all you beautiful people out there, and we'll see you out in the dirt for the next one.